we are finally at my Christopher Nolan review series. I'm going to be reviewing all of his films that I haven't already touched on leading up to Oppenheimer coming out this July, and today I'm talking about his first film, Following tells the story of this man aspiring to be a writer. But he gets his inspiration from a unique place, by following random strangers on the street, observing them. But things spiral out of control when he decides to follow a thief. Pretty much all of the reviews I'm going to be doing on Christopher Nolan, I'm going to keep spoiler free. There's going to be a section later in this review where I give sort of an analysis, and that's still going to be pretty light, but I'll give a warning with that. This is not the first time I've seen this film, but I actually did see this film before Memento, which this film is very much the seed for Memento. Nolan playing with non-linear storytelling, different tracks of story that cut back between each other. And in this film, there's 3 tracks. But what makes Following interesting and different from Memento is that Memento, the non-linear portion and the linear portion are separated because one of them is in black and white, one of them's in color. Here, all of them are in black and white, but it's 3 different spaces in time that keep cutting back between each other, and Nolan separates through them through the appearance of our main character in each of them. I would actually say that there's actually a bit more of a mystery, because with Memento, there's a reason relating to the story and to the character why the story is structured the way it is. Here, there really isn't that. So when you're watching the film for the first time, it does add a sense of mystery as to why are scenes being shown out of order. But as far as the usage of black and white, it really adds to the kind of darkness of this character, the darkness of what he's doing throughout the film. And this film has an interesting point of view, that it's from the point of view, this person that we would call a creep. That it's not from the perspective of his victim. We're seeing everything through his eyes. We're seeing everything through his understanding. But what's really interesting about this character is that he's almost very interesting through how not interesting he is. You know intentionally nothing about this character. And I think that really connects to the theme of this movie, which this section, again, I'm not going to go into heavy spoilers here. I wouldn't even say that I'm going into spoilers here, but I am going to talk about some details of the film. And if you want to know nothing about this film, if you've never seen this film, you're intrigued by it because it's Christopher Nolan, it's his first film, you've never seen it, skip ahead until this video is not black and white. But going back to what I'm saying, you really don't know that much about this character besides him wanting to be a writer. And one of the things that's actually very interesting about this film, there are scenes where you see him typing on his typewriter, but you're never shown what he's writing. And watching it this time, I picked up on the fact that it's almost like he doesn't exist except for what he's doing, that he just exists because of his obsession with others, and that's filling some sort of void in his life. And in certain ways, he's trying to reach to be like this thief character, that this thief takes him under his wing and they become sort of like buddies in the movie. At certain points, he's trying to copy that person, copy the persona, and even copy his look. Because there's really nothing interesting about himself. He feels like he needs to be this other person. But this film also touches on our interest, also kind of obsession with things. And there's an interesting scene where our thief character is explaining why he does what he does. He steals because it fascinates him that when he takes something from someone else and they go and try to replace what he took, they're going to have to remind themselves why they bought it in the first place. Did they buy it for normal reasons, or is it just some worthless crap that they're trying to fill their lives up with? At the core, I feel like this film is about empty people and how they decide to fill up that void in their lives. And in the case of this character, some actually dangerous stuff. And in a way, it's almost like an allegory for social media and showing the bad things that can come of having obsessions with people, wanting what they have. But as far as for the other things about this movie, it's impressive how much Nolan is able to do on such a low budget. I think he made this film for a couple $1,000. There's at times lines that are going through the picture where maybe he added those in or maybe he didn't. But whatever the case, it adds like an old gritty feel to the film. And really, there's nothing spectacular with the cinematography. But with Nolan, he's a director that always focuses on smaller details. And in this film, one of the visuals I picked up on is that he focuses on tiny objects that have a big importance. These small objects later become small plot details that paint a greater picture. And like with his other films, Nolan asks us to pay attention to what's happening because things are set up in the beginning that then pay off later. And finally, I really enjoy the score in this film. It's very simple, yet kind of, I would say, experimental. It sounds very weird, but it fits with the story and it adds tension to moments of dialogue. However, once you watch this film a couple of times and you know what's going to happen, the whole non-linear stuff going on with the film, it does come off as a gimmick. In reality, with this film, you don't have an emotional connection with the characters. And, it's not something unusual for Nolan. At times, he does keep characters at arm's length from you, and usually he has a point to do this. There's actually a worse example of this in a film we'll talk about later in the review series. But at times, his films are plot and his style over characters, and this film does fit that criteria. I wish there was more that was interesting with this character just besides him being empty, and which that was interesting for the theme, like I said, but there was nothing for me to really latch on to this guy besides that. And how this film ends, it's clever, but it's the kind of ending that once it happens and the credits roll, you just kind of move on. I've seen this film 3 times already, and I've enjoyed the ride each time, but it's not a movie that I feel stays with me. But in the end, like I've said before, I enjoy Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, but I'm always going to prefer him when he does something weird like this, when he does something different, in ways experimental and just something that only he can imagine. And this film is not his best by a long shot, but it is a very good film, and it introduced one of my favorite directors of all time. I'm going to give Following a B+. So right now I have created a Christopher Nolan playlist on my channel. It has this review as well as the Dark Knight trilogy that I reviewed when the Batman was coming out, as well as my short review for Inception that I did for high school. Have you actually seen this movie? And if you have seen it, what do you think about it? Comment that bit down below. Subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, hit the like button, give me the support, and I'll see you guys next time.